Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gauravakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gauravakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gauravakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gauravakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, bolon, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Jai Shama Sundaram, Jai Jagannath, Jai Shama Sundar, Jai Jagannath, Jai Shama Sundaram, Jai Jagannath, Yashoda Nandana, Jai Jagannath, Yashoda Nandana, Jai Jagannath. Jai Radha Kanta, Jai Jagannath, Jai Radha Kanta, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jai Radha Kanta, Jai Jagannath, Rohini Nandana, Jai Baladev, Rohini Nandana, Jai Baladev, Rohini Nandana, Jai Baladev, Rohini Nandana, Jai Haladara, Jai Baladev, Jai Haladara, Jai Baladev. Jai Yoga Maya, Jai Subhadra Ma, Jai Yoga Maya, Jai Subhadra Ma. Listen carefully. Jai Bhakti Datri, Jai Subhadra Ma, Jai Bhakti Datri, Jai Subhadra Ma, Jai Bhakti Datri, Jai Subhadra Ma, Jai Vaishnavashram, Jai Sudarshan, Jai Vaishnavashram, Jai Sudarshan. Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra Ma. Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath, Jaya Baladev, Jaya Subhadra Ma. Swami Nayana Padagami, Nayana Padagami, Baba Tume. Jagannath Swami Nayana Padagami, Nayana Padagami, Baba Tume. Vishnuvad Paramahamsa Parivajaka Varya Stotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Iskan Samstapakacharya Srila Prabhupada Ke Jai Om Vishnuvad Paramahamsa Parivajaka Varya Stotra Sata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Singha Guru Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Anand Vaishnava Brinda Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Brinda Ki Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Radhakun Shamakun Giri Govardhana Ki Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Shri Purushottam Keta Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Shri Madhurja Rasa Ganaiti Murti Mahabhav Prakash Jagannath Swami Ki Shri Jagannath Rathiyacha Maha Mahotsava Ke Shri Radha Landanishwar Ju Ke Gopremanande Samaveda Bhakta Vinda Ke All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Gauragraganya Gana Gocha Guloruharam Gauranga Guratama Gopyara Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachil Jachiya Dileka Kola Kahe Premananda Hemona Gauranga Hridoya Dariya Bola. Listen. Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Raha Gaurangera Namare Bolo. Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Raha Gaurangera Namare Jai Janna Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoy Amara Prana Re Jai Janna Gauranga Bhaje Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Vidana Parama Pumarta Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Sri Kuryat Kripaya Jadi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Rishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunathabta Brajabala Bapahimam Kadachit Kalindi Tatavipina Sangita Karavo Mudabiri Nari Vadana Kamalasvada Madupa Rama Shambhu Brahma Marapati Ganesha Chitapado Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatume Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatume Nilachala Nibasaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Subhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Te Namaha Panchakopatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I want to thank you all very much for giving me some opportunity to get your association and share some little tiny bit of Jagannath Katha. I'd like today to speak something a little controversial. Controversy is a lot of fun, actually, because that's how you make friends. When you say something a little controversial to someone. There's a letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to one Pat Keller. The date's not known. But Prabhupada, listen carefully what he says. I'm very glad to hear that you're very serious to become a devotee of Krishna, and that your Christian background has led you to Krishna consciousness. Actually, there's no difference or contradiction between the Christian religion and the Krishna consciousness movement. And because the science of devotional service is absolute, just like 2 + 2 = 4 in any country of the world, therefore we say it is non-sectarian and open for everyone. When I joined the temple in Los Angeles in the early 80s, I was a pujari for Lord Jagannath for some time. And later when we shifted to Orissa in Bhubaneswar in 1993, I was also the pujari for Lord Jagannath. And so when I first went to Jagannath Puri, I was feeling a little excited and happy to Jai Jagannath. And when I came to the temple, I heard a phrase which I've heard many, many times since then, which is the same in Hindi and also in Bengali. When we try to go in the temple, they say, Bideshi Prabesh Nishad. Entrance forbidden, not allowed inside. And I felt very hurt. What is this? This is supposed to be God. You're calling him Jagannath. Jagat means the universe, the Lord of the universe. Is he really the Lord of the universe? Maybe he's just Purinath, or Orissanath, or Hindunath, because they only allow so-called Hindus inside of the temple. So this kind of sectarianism hurts the heart of people all over the world. Bhaktivinoda Thakur speaks about this in a very interesting way in some of his different writings. In Krishna Samhita, he says that sectarianism is a natural byproduct of the absolute truth. That's a very interesting statement, isn't it? Whenever you have the absolute truth that appears in any of its forms, automatically sectarianism is going to be a natural byproduct of that absolute truth. Bhaktivinoda says, when acharyas first ascertain and instruct the truth, it's not polluted with sectarianism, but the rules and regulations received through disciplic succession regarding the goal and the method of achieving it are changed in due course of time according to the mentality and locale of the people. A rule that's followed in one society is not necessarily accepted in another society. That is why one community is different from another. As a community gradually develops more respect for its own standards, it develops hatred toward other communities and considers their standards inferior. These sectarian symptoms are seen in all countries since time immemorial. This is prominent amongst neophytes. Similarly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written in his book Sri Chaitanya and his precepts, speaking about the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Mahaprabhu declared that party spirit and sectarianism were the two great enemies of progress. Srila Prabhupada visited Bhubaneswar and then Jagannath Puri in January and February of 1977. While he was in Bhubaneswar, he laid the groundstone for the last temple that he opened in Bhubaneswar, Krishna Balaram Mandir. And a little after that, he went to Jagannath Puri. And you may know, famously, he was requested to speak at some book release. There was one Panda, Puri Panda, who had come out with a new book about Jagannath. And he requested Srila Prabhupada that you should release the book. So Prabhupada gave a talk there, and Prabhupada didn't say anything about the book. All that Srila Prabhupada spoke about was how you should not be sectarian. And he told them that this is Vaishnava Aparad. You're not allowing the Western devotees inside of the temple. And he spoke very strongly to them, very heavily for, 20, 30 minutes. And then when he finished speaking, the Pandit said, "What about the book?" And Prabhupada said, "Oh yes, there's this new book." And he tossed it down on the table. And that was the book release. Shortly after that, Harisari Prabhu, who was there, he told me that Srila Prabhupada had told him and some other devotees privately that don't fight over this. He said, rather, you should think of Haridas Thakur and how Haridas Thakur was not allowed inside the temple. So somehow, by Krishna's mercy, we've been living in Orissa and Jagannath Puri since 1993. And we've been taking many, many devotees around on parikramas in Puri. And one place that we always end up at is in front of the Singadwara gate, the Jagannath Mandir. And we're standing out there in the road. A few years ago, we had a group of Russian-speaking devotees who were disciples of Bhakti Vigyan Maharaj. And we come out there. And as we often do when we were standing out there in the road, I took a minute and I jumped up on a bicycle rickshaw. And I spoke a little something to all of them. And I told them, I said that we're dogs. Dogs are not allowed inside the temple. Dogs are not allowed inside. We have to stand outside. But I said, don't feel bad. Apanankara, Jagannath Ankara Kukur. We're Jagannath's dogs. It's not so bad. And I said to them that what is the business of a dog? A dog stays outside and it jumps up and down and it barks. Right? So that's what we also do. We jump up and down and we bark. That's our kirtan. And so I requested them that we should all offer our Dandavat pranams in the dirt of the road, because this is our feeling, we're Jagannath's dogs. So we offered obeisances like that. And when I got up, this is a true story, amazing thing, there was a Pandit standing right in front of me. And a little unusual, he spoke very good English, and he had a basket in his hand. And he gave it to me. He said, "This is for you." He said, "Jagannath sent this to you." That's exactly what he said. I looked inside the basket, and I recognized it's Mahaprasad, but not just any Jagannath Mahaprasad. It was from the Balya Bhoga offering, which is not such a big offering, very small offering, and only special pandits can get that. It's a very hard thing to get. So by that time, the devotees were doing kirtan again. And I stopped them after a minute. And I told them, I said, "So, what does the dog do?" The dog stands outside, jumps up and down and barks. And then what does the master do? He throws a little bit of food to the dog. So see what Jagannath has done? So sometimes we feel a little hurt, a little bad. And we can see this sentiment is also becoming more prevalent in Jagannath Puri. The king of Puri is very favorable to the devotees going inside the temple. And not just the king, but many of the pandits also. But there's some strong sentiment among some people, so they don't say things about it. But the government, I've also spoke to the district collector of Puri, who's like the mayor of Puri. And he was very adamant this is a great offense. They should allow Westerners inside. I think it's just a matter of time. Some of the pandits a few years ago, they told me, I was speaking with them, they said, "Madhavananda," I said, "it's up to Jagannath. If Jagannath wants you to come inside, we'll carry you inside. Just like Kabir Das in the 1200s. He came to Jagannath Puri, and Kabir Das is a little enigmatic. It's kind of hard to figure out, is he a Muslim or is he a Hindu? What is he? He had a tagia on, a Muslim hat. And so when he came to the entrance of the temple, the pandits told him, probation shade, not allowed inside. So he became a little sad, and he went to the beach and began meditating on Lord Jagannath. In the Jagannath Mandir, they have very particular rules and regulations for worshipping Jagannath, which are very unique. Practically, they're given by Jagannath himself. They're very unique to the Jagannath temple. One of the things that they do when they offer boga, the priest who's offering the boga, they chant different mantras and things, and after they offered it to Jagannath, he puts a little water in his hand, and he holds it in a certain way. And if he can see the reflection of Jagannath in the water, it means that Jagannath has accepted the offering. If they can't see the reflection, it means they throw everything away, and they recook it. And it may be like a few tons of food. Sometimes they have huge offerings. They throw everything away. So that morning, try as he might, he couldn't see Jagannath's reflection. And this went on for a few days. And Jagannath wasn't accepting anything. Finally, Jagannath, as he likes to do quite often, he came in a dream of the king of Puri. And he told him, I'm not happy. You're not allowing my devotee Kabir Das inside the temple. You should bring him in the temple. So the Pandits went and they picked him up and they carried him inside the temple, which is against Shastric regulations. You're not supposed to be carried on a palanquin and be carried into the temple. But Jagannath told them, so they did. So the Pandits told me, they said, Madhavananda, don't worry. We'll personally carry you in the temple if Jagannath tells us. So next time we're standing out in the dirt in the front of the Singadwara gate and feeling sad like a dog that we can't go inside the Jagannath Mandir, you might take a moment and look around you and see who's out there with you, and you might see you have some very good association. We wrote a magazine, I think it was our 13th issue of Krishna Katamrita, about this subject matter, about how Jagannath is Petit Pavan, or the deliverer of the fallen. And there are many, many stories and things in there. I'd like to share with you today a little something about Rath Yatra. Jagannath has different festivals that are performed, and those list of festivals, generally they begin with the Snan Purnima, the Snan Yatra, which will take place in about 5 days. So some people say that Rath Yatra begins then. Other people say that it begins on the day of Akshaya Tritiya, which is when they begin to make the carts for Jagannath. Other people say that actually the Rath Yatra festival really begins on the day we know as Pandava Nirjal Ekadasi. And that's very interesting because, of course, our festival this year, tomorrow, will be on Pandava Nirjal Ekadasi. And that day in Jagannath Puri, it's known as Rukmini Vivaha, or Lakshmi Narayan Vivaha. It's interesting that they particularly use the name Rukmini. That's a very big esoteric subject. It would take us a long time to go through. But it's interesting, you can mark it. So on that day, which will be tomorrow, it's a very romantic day, very nice day. On that day, Jagannath gets married to Lakshmi Devi. And it's a very romantic ceremony. They have so many different prayers they do, ceremonies. And at one point, they take the cloth of Lakshmi Devi and the cloth of Jagannath, and they tie the knot. And they tie a knot between the two of them. So Jagannath has some happy married life for about 4 days. And then on the Purnima, which is also known as Snan Yatra, Snan Purnima, Jagannath has a public bath. And on that day, the Pandits, they take hundreds of pots of water from a special well known as a Suna Kua. The Suna in Oriya language means gold. Some people say that the well is lined with gold. It's not actually, but anyway, that well is locked off, and it's only used for this particular festival. And they pour all this water all over Jagannath. And this is a nice festival because the Westerners can see it. It takes place on the eastern wall of the Jagannath Mandir, the northeastern corner. And Jagannath comes up on top of the wall there, and you can see him. A very, very nice festival. So they pour hundreds of pots of water over Jagannath's head. And then there's a special dress they offer to Jagannath called Hati Vesh. Hati means elephant. It's said that there was once one Maharashtrian Brahmin who had come to Puri, and he was a Ganapatni Bhakta. He was a devotee of Ganesh. And someone had said to him that Jagannath is Purna Brahma, that he's the absolute truth. So this Ganapatni Bhakta, he decided, well, if that's really true, then Jagannath will manifest the form of my Ishtadev, Ganesh. And so when he went there, Jagannath understanding the mood of that devotee, manifested that form. Balaram and Jagannath both had on a Hati Vesh. And since ladies don't like to dress up like elephants, it's not very cool, Subhadra dressed up in a lotus Vesh, lotus dress. It's said by Vrindavan Das Thakur that Jai Rupa Chinche Dasi Se Rupa Hoy. According to the mood of a devotee, the Lord manifests a corresponding form. Now I've marked that some of my friends in the Sri Sampradaya, they have a serious problem with this dress. And they say, no, this is completely bogus. We wrote something about this recently in our most recent issue, Krishna Katamrita magazine, which we wrote about Jagannath. And we wrote about different types of worship of Jagannath. Is that bona fide to worship him as Balaram or Radharani or this or that? There's no historical precedent. And anyway, it's another subject. But we mentioned something about this Hati Vesh and how in the Sri Sampradaya they don't like this because they're strict followers of Vaishnava Vedanta. And according to Vaishnava Vedanta, we don't accept Parinamavad. Parinamavad means when the Lord transforms himself into an ordinary living entity. And so they consider that if you say that now Jagannath has become Ganesh, that's Parinamavad, that now Jagannath has become one of the demigods, and this is a great offense. We don't accept that. But if we think about this matter in our line of Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we have perhaps a little different attitude. We see that in Navadvip, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes was in the mood of Balaram. And sometimes he was in the mood of Lord Shiva. And when he was in the mood of Lord Shiva, different biographers describe that the devotees went and they started offering Shiva Stuti, prayers to Lord Shiva, to enhance the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now the Gaudiya Vaishnavas don't think that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became Lord Shiva. But we consider that because Mahaprabhu loves his devotee, Lord Shiva, so much, and Lord Shiva is Vaishnavanam Yatashambhu, the greatest Vaishnav, that Mahaprabhu adopted that mood. And so similarly, we consider that Ganesh, Jagannath doesn't become Ganesh, but rather he adopts the mood of Ganesh for some time, not that he changes. It's not Parinamavad to us. So, back to our story. Jagannath, he has his bath, and then they dress him up in this Hati Vesh, and then for 14 days, there's a period of time known as Anavasya, which is not actually mentioned in Shastra, but during that time, the local tradition is that Jagannath is sick. Now, we don't accept that he's sick, because Jagannath is Navayovana. He's eternally youthful, he never gets sick. But there's a confidential purport to this, as some Vaishnavas consider, that Jagannath's real purpose in going up on the wall, he could have had his Snan Yatra inside of the temple. What was the necessity of him having it on top of the wall? Because Jagannath had a secret desire. His secret desire was he wanted to see Vrindavan. He was missing the Brijbasis. And so from on top of the Jagannath Mandir at that time, before all the big buildings started coming up, you could see all the way to Gundicha. And Gundicha is a place which is considered to be like Vrindavan. Why? Because that's the place where Jagannath was originally installed. That's where he appeared. And so that's like his home. It's like Vrindavan. And so Jagannath, Krishna, he's hoping that by seeing Vrindavan, maybe he can even see the gopis from a distance, it'll help ease the pangs of separation that he's feeling from him. But just the opposite happens. When he sees Vrindavan, his fever comes up. This is known as Vipralamba Jwara, or the fever of separation. And then it seems that Jagannath has become sick. Some years ago, we went to Chowpatty, And Radhanath Maharaj suggested that I go to speak to one Vaishnav doctor. I think he was in the Sri Sampradaya also, but he's been taking Siksha from Radhanath Maharaj for a long time. Very nice man, very, very pious. Every weekend for many, many years, he goes to some darshan. Sometimes he goes to Rameshram, sometimes he goes to Bhadargashram, sometimes to Dwarka, sometimes Vrindavan, sometimes Puri. And when he goes to those places, he's very popular with the pandas there because he gives big donations. So when he went to Jagannath Puri one year for Ratha Yatra, during the Anavasya period, they don't worship Jagannath. He's worshipped by the Anavasya Pati. Pati means a painting, and there's one artist, if he's still alive, his name is Bhubaneswar Mahapatra, and he comes in a disciplic succession, family succession, seminal succession of artists, and their job is they paint this picture of Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, and while he's painting that picture, he has to take bath before he paints it. He follows 4 regulated principles. No meat eating, no eggs or anything. He sleeps on the ground. He does achaman before he begins the painting because it's a kind of deity worship. And after making the painting, then it's installed by Brahmins as a deity, and they carry it in procession to the Jagannath Mandir. And for those 14 days, that painting is worshipped. And so then after the Anavasya period, and just before Ratha Yatra, just the day before, there's a special darshan of Jagannath called Navayovana Darshan. You see, Jagannath has 7 different layers to his body. You can see this rope around my neck. This is from Jagannath's cart, where they tied Jagannath to the cart. One of the Mahants gave me this. This red cloth is part of Jagannath's body. Jagannath has 7 different layers, not just wood, but there's some rope and some different cloth and things wrapped around him. And the paint that they use for Jagannath is a little different. They don't use acrylic paint, anything like that. The white color comes from ground up conch shells. And the black color comes from, they put some honey in a silver cup and they burn a flame under it and it makes some soot. And that's the black color. And the red color and yellow comes from oxides, from some different minerals. It's all natural colors. But the problem with natural colors like that is when you give someone a bath, all the colors run. And so after Jagannath's bath, the colors start coming off of him. And this is one of the purposes of the Anavasya period. Jagannath gets refurbished. And so then on the day known as Navayovana Darshan, Jagannath comes out all fresh, and everybody goes to see him, a very special darshan. So that night, our doctor friend, remember him from Chopati, who was in Puri, one of the pandas approached him and asked him, he said, would you like to have a special darshan of Jagannath? He said, well, yeah, come with me. And he had him dress up like a panda. And they went inside the temple. At that time, the doors are locked, no one's allowed inside, just a few of the pandas. And that panda took him all the way up to the next to Jagannath. And he's standing there, and the panda told him, he said, there's a reason why I brought you here. He said, because you're a doctor, and I want to show you that Jagannath has a fever. The doctor said, yeah, right, sure. Jagannath has a fever. I believe that. Because wherever you go, all the pandas, they have some far out stories about their deities. And he went, well, sure, Jagannath has a fever. He said, no, you should test him. Check him. See? The doctor was rather taken aback. So then very respectfully and gingerly he reached his hand out and he touched where Jagannath's feet were at. And it's cold. And the panda looked at him and he said, what kind of doctor are you? Is that how you test someone's fever? He said, you should touch his neck, touch his head. So, okay. So the doctor told me personally, he reached out and he touched Jagannath's neck. Oh my God. He said it was burning hot. That Jagannath had a fever. This is this Vipalamba Jvara, or the fever of separation from the Brijbasis. And you might know, the men here will be very happy to hear, Lakshmi Devi is such a good wife. For 2 weeks, she doesn't sleep. She just serves her husband. She's such a good wife. Now, you can't blame her. After 2 weeks, she gets pretty tired, not sleeping. And finally, she falls asleep. And what does Jagannath do? As soon as Lakshmi Devi falls asleep, immediately he unties the knot in their cloth. And he leaves the temple to go see his girlfriends. And we call that Rath Yatra. Now, I don't know the devotees here. I'd like to ask all of you a question or two of you, just for the ladies, okay? How many ladies here think it's really bad for a newly married husband to leave his wife and go to see his girlfriends? Raise your hand if you think that's very, very bad. All right, okay. Now I have a question also for the men. Amongst the men, how many of you would say, well, anyway, it's Jagannath. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and it's okay. He can do that. Raise your hand. So this is why sometimes there's marital problems in our society. Huh? So Lakshmi Devi, she wakes up a few days later. This is all told in one Stala Purana called the Vamadev Sanhita. This Vamadev Sanhita is a Sanskrit literature, Sanskrit Stala Purana, local Purana, which is cited by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta sometimes. And it's one of the main Puranas that the Pandits use to follow for their puja system. So Lakshmi Devi, after she wakes up, she looks around and she says, where did my husband go? And she asks the Pandits, and the Pandits say, well, you see, he kind of sort of like, he went to visit his girlfriends. Lakshmi Devi doesn't take it very well. She becomes very unhappy, and she says, forget it, I'm not going to be worshipped. She leaves the temple, and she goes to a go-down, where they keep the vegetables and spices and whatever. And she stays there for some days. She won't take bath. She takes off all of her ornaments. And she dresses in a very, very simple way. And after a few days, what does a lady do when her husband behaves in such a way? Who does she go to see? I asked this question a few days ago in Scotland. And one of the ladies immediately raised her hand. She says, she goes to see a lawyer. Lakshmi Devi doesn't go to see a lawyer. But she goes to see her girlfriend, right? That's what ladies do. They go. So she goes to Goddess Bimala Devi. It's kind of like her auntie in the Jagannath Mandir. And she says, my husband, it's really bad. We just got married just a few days ago. I was such a good wife. I didn't sleep for 2 weeks. I'd taken care of him. And I fell asleep. I can't blame me. And then he leaves. And it's so bad, he took his brother. Okay, I can understand that. But he also took his sister with him. He could have taken me, but he didn't take me. This is very bad. And Goddess Bimala Devi, she nods her head and says, I know, all these men are all alike. And so Lakshmi Devi asks her, what should I do? And Goddess Bimala Devi at that time, she replies, Yadadavo vapi viveka sunyo pachutanam tatta prasidam eva chanam grihitvapi davopi yatra taparshvakam gacha sureshwari tvam. That, she said, everybody knows that when a husband, viveka sunyo, when he loses his good intelligence and he starts going with some other woman, that a woman at that time, she has to take shelter of magic. And she says, Chanam grihitva pidavo piyatra. I have this special powder. I'll give you. You take this powder, you go to your husband, and you blow it in his face. I think you could make a lot of money if you could market such a powder like this. So Lakshmi Devi, in the next morning, it's the 5th day after Jagannath left, Lakshmi Devi gets up that morning, and that morning she has a bit of an attitude. She's a mananayika. She's a heroine who's a little sulky and angry. She takes a bath. She puts on her most expensive silk sari and her most expensive gold jewelry. And she goes with her friends. And she goes to see her husband. But she doesn't follow exactly the path that he went, because now she's very sulky. That festival is known in Orissa as Hera Panchami. Panchami means the 5th day after Jagannath left. And the word Hera in a real language means to behold or to see. So on this day, Lakshmi Devi goes to see Jagannath, or you could say Jagannath gets to see Lakshmi Devi. So she goes there and she becomes a little rough. She harasses some of Jagannath's pandas, ties them up, she beats them, she breaks part of the chariot. she's in a bad mood. I followed this festival some years, and when Lakshmi Devi goes, she arrives at the Gundicha Mandir, and she enters into the northern gate of the Jagannath Mandir, the Gundicha Mandir. There's two entrances. She goes inside, and again, this phrase that I don't like to hear, they tell me, hey, Videshi, probation, shade, entrance forbidden. I can't go inside. So then I went over and I stand over by the other gate. This Lakshmi Devi, last time I was there for the festival, she went inside about 11 o'clock at night. And she came out maybe 2 o'clock in the morning. And I was the only person waiting outside for her. The Pandits were very harsh toward me on the way there, but when they saw I was waiting this whole time, their hearts melted. Sometimes they said that Pandits are like coconuts. They're really hard on the outside, but very soft on the inside. Anyway, Lakshmi Devi, she goes in to see her husband. She comes before him and she smiles. She blows his powder in his face and she leaves. When Lakshmi Devi goes back, and this is also a good lesson for all, especially any married men who are here in the room today, when Lakshmi Devi goes back, you'd be astonished to know she goes back on a different route, and practically the whole city of Puri is waiting for her. All the residents, although it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning by that time, she gets back to the temple maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock, because everywhere she goes, everyone is coming out and they're offering flowers and fruits to Lakshmi Devi. So this is a lesson for married men. If you have a problem with your wife, generally everybody sides with the lady. And in Puri, everybody sides with Lakshmi Devi. And Jagannath shouldn't have done this to you, it's very bad. And so Jagannath, then he realizes, oh boy, I'm in big trouble now. And it's time to have the Bahuda Rath. The Bahuda Rath takes place on Bahuda Ekadasi, the Ekadasi following this Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi. 2 Ekadasis after this. And Jagannath returns to the Sri Mandir. Just before Jagannath returns, there's another festival called Lakshmi Narayan Bet. And at that time, the king of Puri, he goes to see Lakshmi Devi, and he acts like kind of a marriage counselor. And he tells Lakshmi Devi that Jagannath loves you. It's okay. He's on his way back. And just see, he sent an elephant for you to ride on. And Lakshmi Devi refuses the elephant. But then she comes out of the temple to see Jagannath with her girlfriends. She comes on a palanquin. She circumambulates her husband, bows her head, and goes back in the temple. And she doesn't say anything to him. And Jagannath realizes this is pretty serious stuff. So that night he has a particular dress on, which is very popular in Orissa amongst the common people, although Gaudiya Vaishnavas are not so fond of that dress. Many times I see pictures of Jagannath from Puri, devotees like this dress, but this is not our favorite dress. It's called the Sunavesh. And Jagannath has golden hands and golden feet and a gold crown and gold necklaces and gold earrings and gold nose ring and everything gold, because he has to pacify Lakshmi Devi. That I left Vrindavan, I left those ladies. Now I'm your husband. I've come back and see I'm dressing up for you. They say that on that day, between the 3 deities, Jagannath, Baladeva, Subhadra, they're wearing over 1 ton of gold. I don't know if that's true or not, but I would say that if you add to that all the weight of the gold that the Pandits are wearing, to show solidarity for Jagannath, they're also wearing gold necklaces and bracelets and things, it must be over 1 ton of gold. So Jagannath dresses like this. On that day, many years in Puri, there's more yatris, more pilgrims come for that darshan than come for Ratha Yatra. Because people like it when God dresses up in a real opulent way. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, our favorite dress, is called Bada Shringara Vesh. And that's a different kind of dress. Maybe we'll speak about that tomorrow. The Bada Shringara Vesh, Jagannath wears what's known as the Gita Govinda Kandua. It's a sari which has verses written from the Gita Govinda on it, very, very rasik. The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they like that dress of Jagannath, which he wears every night. And perhaps tomorrow we'll say something more about that particular dress. So the next day is a return Pahandi. And Jagannath, Baladeva, Subhadra start to go back in the temple. And first of all, Subhadra and Sudarshan go into the temple. And it's quite a dramatic thing. All the pandas are banging on gongs and they're blowing trumpets and everything. And with great fanfare and worship, Subhadra and Sudarshan and then Balaram, they go inside the temple. And then Kaliya, Chakadola Jagannath, he starts to go inside of the temple. And again, everyone's banging on gongs and they're saying, Jai Jagannath. And when they start to go there, all of a sudden they find that the doors are slammed shut and they're locked. And there's a voice from the other side of the temple, the door, which tells Jagannath, Prabeshni Shade, entrance forbidden. Lakshmi Devi is in a bad mood. So then there's a bard, to use an old English word, a singer, a representative of Lord Jagannath, who goes and he sings a very romantic song. I think his name is Surya Narayan Das Mahapatra, the current Panda who does that service. And he sings some very romantic songs. It'd be good with a violin. And Jagannath loves Lakshmi Devi. And he's come back to her. And he feels very bad. And he wants to come back to his wife. And then there's a voice from the other side of the door that says, go away. Lakshmi Devi's in a really bad mood. So then Jagannath, he smiles and says, I brought you a new sari and some ornaments. And he tries so many different things. And repeatedly, the only message they get from the other side of the door is, go away. So finally, the door opens. And with great fanfare and the gongs and the trumpets and everything and the voices, Jai Jagannath, Kaliya Chakadola Jagannath, goes through the first gate. And then he goes up the 22 steps. And he comes to the next gate. And he finds that that gate is locked. So again, there's some dialogue with Lakshmi Devi. And then Lakshmi Devi, she tells her maidservants, do you give a special message to Jagannath? Would you like to hear what Lakshmi Devi has to say? Yes. Okay. She tells him, Atjastale smakam api Devi chandi stita vibho asmin stali pitvat sokyam deva nasti priyanahi. You tell Jagannath that his sweet, loving wife is no longer here. And the only person that he's going to find here is Goddess Chandi. Now, for those of you who don't know who Goddess Chandi is, Durga is an expansion of Lakshmi Devi, and a further expansion of Durga is Chandi. And you can recognize Chandi. She has quite an attitude. In one hand, she has a big chopper. And in the other hand, she has a man's head that she cut off. So, Lakshmi Devi gives this message. Tell my husband, his sweet loving wife's not here. And all he's going to find is Goddess Chandi with her chopper. So, he should go somewhere else. And then she goes on to tell him, Chandanadi sugandham yad bhaksha bojadi kam chayat idam virhavani stanam tatstanam gachahe vibho. I know my husband. He likes nice food. He likes nice fragrant oils and sandalwood paste and things like that. Tell him he's not going to find any of that here. And tell him, idam virhavani stanam. His girlfriends must be missing him. He should go back to his girlfriends. He's not welcome here. So Jagannath has a problem. So there's some more dialogue, and finally Jagannath, it happens every year in Jagannath Puri, they make huge pots of rasgullas, very big rasgullas. And they say, Jagannath sent you these sweets. And finally Lakshmi Devi, she says, okay. And she allows Jagannath back inside of the temple, and they're banging the gongs and blowing the horns, and Jagannath Swami ki jai, and he goes back inside. But the festival's not over quite yet. The very last ceremony of the festival is yet to take place. Jagannath goes back on the altar, and Lakshmi Devi comes next to him. And then what they do, every year they take the cloth of Lakshmi Devi and the cloth of Jagannath, and they retie a knot in the cloth. And that festival, when Jagannath returns back in the temple, is known as Niladri Vijay. And that traditionally is said to be the day Jagannath has 3 birthdays. It's pretty good. We'd be happy if we had 2 birthdays. But Jagannath has 3. One of them is Krishna Janmashtami. A second is Snan Purnima. It's on the day of Snan Purnima that Lord Brahma installed Jagannath at the Gundicha temple. And the third festival is known as Niladri Vijay. And that's the tradition of the day that Jagannath was installed in the temple, in the Sri Mandir, in Jagannath Puri. So he's got 3 birthdays. He does pretty good. So the next time that we're standing outside in the street, feeling sad, like I'm being treated like a dog, look around you. You might find you have good association. That you might find Haridas Thakur is there, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. You might find some of the greatest devotees of Orissa, like Dasya Bauri and Salabeg and Balaram Das, who Salabeg is probably the most famous Vaishnav poet in Orissa, but he wasn't allowed inside the Jagannath Mandir. That's another long story. But because he's a son of Lal Beg. Lal Beg was a Muslim. His mother, her name was Lalita. She was a Vaishnavi, and she was kidnapped by this Muslim and forcibly made into his wife. And they had this child, Salabeg, and he wrote some of the most beautiful songs glorifying Jagannath. But he wasn't allowed inside of Puri, inside the Jagannath Mandir, although his songs are undoubtedly the most famous, most popular amongst all the devotees of Jagannath. So, Jagannath, sometimes the Pandits would tell me that or sometimes devotees, they say that it's not fair, these Pandits are sectarian, it's not good, they should allow the Westerners inside. But I tell them, I don't like to blame the Pandits, I blame Jagannath. And sometimes the Pandits, they say, Madhavananda, you're really unfortunate. And I say, why? Because you can't go inside the temple to see Jagannath. I said, I don't have to go inside to see him. He comes outside to see us. And we call that Rath Yatra. And that's wonderful. That means a lot more to me. And then I ask them a question sometimes. They say, look, you're a Pandit. You know Shastra. You're very learned. Please tell me, who did Krishna give more mercy to, the Brijbasis or the Dwarkabasis? And I say, well, the Brijbasis, of course, everyone knows. And I say, it's a lie? How can you say that? Krishna left them, and they were crying, and they couldn't see him. But in Dwarka, they were seeing Krishna every day. So clearly, Krishna gave more mercy to the Dwarkabasis, right? No. He gave more mercy to the Brijbasis because he put them in an ocean of separation. And therefore the Jagannath Ashtakam describes, Aho dine nate nahita charano nishchitam idam Jagannath Swami nayana patagami bhavatume Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatume Aho dine nate nahita charano nishchitam idam. That when Jagannath sees that someone feels very low and very, very fallen, Jagannath gives special mercy to those devotees. Those devotees who are crying, standing outside like a dog, and chanting Jagannath Swami Nayana Patagami Bhavatume. Oh Jagannath, please allow me to see you. And in Jagannath Puri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has taught us. It was in Jagannath Puri that he compiled, that he wrote his Shikshastakam prayers. In the last prayer, he describes Adarshana Mahatam Karotu Va Mat Prananatas Tu Eva Napra. Whether you give me darshan or don't give me darshan, Mat Prananatas Tu Eva Napra. You're the Lord of my life and no one else. So it's a kind of abuse when we're not allowed inside of the temple. But that kind of abuse we wear as an ornament on our head. I'll tell you an interesting personal story, if you don't mind. A few years ago, we'd made this magazine about Petit Pavan Jagannath. The magazine, as it evolved, it turned out to have 2 primary subjects. The first subject was Bideshi Probation Shade, and Westerners not allowed inside the temple. The second subject was what we just talked to you about today, the marriage of Lakshmi and Jagannath. And so we had a tour to go on. We were supposed to travel in Europe and Russia and give some classes. And we were working very hard to finish the magazine in time. And we finally finished all the articles of writing. And it was 1 week before we had to leave to go to Delhi to print. And usually it takes me about a month to do the proper layout, the design and things. I had 1 week. So I said a prayer to Jagannath, look, it's up to you if you want this. Somehow a week later the magazine was ready. I didn't sleep a lot. But amazing thing happened. As soon as the magazine was finished, just within a few minutes, all of a sudden, one Brahmin friend of ours from Puri came to the door. And he said, Madhavananda, I got some Jagannath Mahaprasad from you from Puri. It was very, very auspicious, just at the moment that we finished. As we took that thing. And then he told us, he said that, I have something else for you also. And he pulled out a card from his bag inside an envelope. And there's some Oriya writing. I don't read very much Oriya. I looked at it, I said, what is this? He said, it's an invitation. Invitation for what? He said, it's from the Jagannath administration, the Jagannath Mandir administration. It's an invitation for you to go inside the temple to attend a festival. I said, what? What festival? It's the marriage of Lakshmi and Jagannath. I told Krishna Kun when that happened, I said, Jagannath's laughing at us. Now, in answer to your next question, we didn't try, because we had to leave the next morning for Delhi and for our service. But for me, I don't really mind. Sometimes devotees, they like to try to sneak inside the Jagannath Mandir. They put some shoe polish or something all over their face and sneak inside the temple. I think that's kind of cool. I don't want to do that. I'd like to go in a dignified way. I don't want to sneak in like a thief. And for me, this meant a lot that Jagannath invited me inside the temple. Now, I know we've got about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes left, but I would like to share something with you that I've always wanted to share in England. I've never shared this particular katha. When we were working on this issue of the magazine, I did a lot of research online, also with the British Library. And I went to different leading scholars, PhDs in the university, in Ukal University in Orissa, and I asked them a simple question. When did the rule, the Bideshi Prabheshni Niषed, this rule prohibiting foreigners from going inside the temple, when did that begin? When did it take place? And they couldn't tell me. So I started going through books, very old books from the 1800s, in the British Library. And I came across a very interesting fact. That paradoxically, the formal policy of the Jagannath Mandir to not allow foreigners or outcast people to go inside the temple was enacted originally by the British foreigners. So it's your fault. We're blaming all of you. Although I don't know how many of you would really classify as British exactly, because somebody told me the other day that England conquered the world, and now the world is conquering England. You have so many different foreigners and things in London today. So this official regulation began when the British, they declared war on the Marathas who were ruling Orissa at that time, and Lord Wesley, as the governing general of the East Indian Company, he sent a dispatch to Lieutenant Colonel Campbell, who was a commanding officer of the British forces in Orissa. And it was an interesting order because the author of the order, Lord Wesley, was a staunch Christian. And here's what he wrote in that letter that we found. On your arrival at Jagannath, you should employ every possible precaution to preserve the respect due to the pagoda, the temple, and to the religious prejudices of the Brahmins and pilgrims. You should furnish the Brahmins with guards that should afford perfect security to their persons, rites and ceremonies, and to the sanctity of the religious edifices, and you should strictly enjoin those under your command to observe your orders on this important subject with the utmost degree of accuracy and vigilance. So when Lieutenant Colonel Campbell, with his army came near to Puri and they were camping, some of the Pandas, a delegation of Pandas, came to see him. And they informed him, an official thing which was put in writing. They said, the Brahmins of this holy temple, they want to inform you that Jagannath has declared that he wants the English government to be his guardian. So the Pandits came and told. Now, I don't know if Jagannath actually told them that, or the Pandits just decided this is a very wise policy to go and suck up to the British when they come. But in any case, it was a good idea. And so when the British troops entered Puri on the 18th of September, they found there was no resistance. And a little after that, the British, in 1809, they enacted into law was Section 7 or Regulation 4. And this rule barred entry for 16 different castes to the temple of Jagannath. And it's a long list, I won't read all that to you, but it includes prostitutes and liquor sellers and fishermen and boatmen and people who make shoes. And one of them is a guski. Guski means a private bad women. Not the prostitutes. That's another. This is a kuspi. This is another ladies who maybe don't dress properly. I don't know. The gazur, the people who carry burdens and things. So these 6 different castes were forbidden entrance to the Jagannath Mandir. And that policy continued until Indian independence in 1947. And then Gandhi and others were pushing that the lower caste should be allowed inside the Jagannath Mandir. In 1948, the lower castes were first allowed inside the Jagannath temple, but the practice of barring other people from the mandir still goes on today. And the official law that's there today was written in 1955, and it doesn't actually even say anything about Westerners, interestingly. The official law, I'll read it to you, is whoever forcibly enters into any place within the temple when such entrance is prohibited under any law or custom, therefore by custom we're forbidden, or under any lawful order issued by the committee or by the administration shall, on conviction, be punishable with imprisonment which may extend to 2 months, or with a fine which may extend to 50 rupees, or with both. That's the current law in the Jagannath Mandir. So for me, when I see this policy, the Jagannath Temple, I don't feel hatred. I don't feel angry toward the Pandits. I know one Pandu, he chants 64 rounds of the Hare Krishna mantra every day. Right? There's 2 other Pandits that I know that they're practically disciples of Radhanath Maharaj. We had lunch with Radhanath Maharaj and his Pandits a few months ago in Puri. There's some of the Pandits who really love the devotees. But why is this rule there? We blame Lord Jagannath. And this is the nature of Jagannath Puri Dham, because it's known as Vipralamba Ketra, or the place of separation. And by not allowing his devotees to see him, it increases their feelings so many, many times over. So this is a little something about Jagannath. I think we have about 2 minutes. If anybody has any quick comments or questions, anything, we can try to entertain that now just for a couple of minutes. Anybody have anything? Okay. Prabhuji?
You were talking about prohibition.
Uh-huh. I thought you might be interested in that.
One of the points you made to explain it was Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifesting as Lord Shiva. But then some may reason that, but that's a very different manifestation, because Lord Shiva himself is Shiram Yatati Vikara Vishesha Yoga, he's a manifestation of Vishnu, whereas we might not look at
Ganesh is also
Ganesh in the same light, because Ganesh is actually a jiva, whereas Shiva is his own tattva. Just wondering if you could elaborate on that a bit further.
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also sometimes manifested the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. He's a jiva. And Dhruva Maharaj and others, so many different devotees. It's one way that we could reconcile this. I would like to comment that before anybody does something, you should see the deity department in ISKCON. Go talk to Nishina Kabacha. We should follow our particular rules. And this is also our tradition in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. Prabhupada wanted also each temple to be autonomous. And different temples, different places have different rules, different policies. I'm just speaking about the Jagannath Mandir in Puri and giving something to help us to understand one way to look at that. And there's other ways to look at it also. And some Vaishnavas, they don't appreciate that dress, that Hati Vaishnava. Prabhupada didn't do it, although it was going on during the time of Thakur Bhaktivinoda, but we don't find any mention of it in the writings. But we could look at it, as I mentioned, perhaps in this way.
I don't have any problem with Hati Vaishnava.
Okay.
I actually like it. All I'm saying is that, as you correctly pointed out, there are people who have very strong feelings about it, especially those who are into Sri Vaishnava.
This topic came up for us more recently because when we started thinking about Giriraj and we started researching, we found absolutely zero Shastric Pramana or tradition to worship Giriraj as Balaram or Radharani and like that. But then we saw some devotees were doing it, and there was something of an old tradition. When I say zero tradition, I mean with our Goswamis and our Parampara. But at Govardhan Hill in south, there's just near, you may know where the footprint of Airavata is, not so far from the town of Jatipura. There on top of the hill, about halfway up the hill, there's a small, it's a Shiv Linga. It's a Govardhan Shila, which is shaped like a Shiv Linga, and they worship him as Gopishwara Mahadev. Not far from there, there's another form of Giriraj, which looks like Hanuman, and they worship him as Hanuman. Not far from there, there's another Shila, they worship as Balaram. But in the case of all three of those Shilas, they don't consider that Giriraj has now become Lord Shiva, or he's become Hanuman or Balaram. He's Giriraj, but he's in the mood right now, this particular personality. And so we just made some report on that. These are little controversial things. Deity worship is a formal thing within our society, and there's also some tradition. Sometimes some confusion comes if we speak about a tradition that may clash with our particular policies in the temple. But our tradition is also that we should follow the policies of the temple. So those are my other comments on that. Anything else from anybody? Prabhuji?
Hare Krishna. I'm just wondering, many devotees are inquiring, how shall we observe festival tomorrow, because it's Pandavananda Ekadashi. Would you please, Jagannath, if we just don't drink water and don't take prasadam, or what shall we do?
Here's my suggestion, my personal thought about this, which is only my personal thought. And that is, we'll please Jagannath by pleasing Srila Prabhupada, by pleasing Guru. And I can tell you a little story in this regard, which I heard from the devotees in the Bagh-Bazar temple, that at the time of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he had his room just above the temple room, a little in the back. It's still there today. And one Ekadasi day, he noticed it was really late in the morning, and the devotees were doing kirtan, and they weren't going out for book distribution and preaching. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta called for the temple manager. He said, "What's going on?" And so, Guru Maharaj, it's Ekadasi today, and the devotees, they didn't feel strong enough to fast and go out for book distribution and preaching. So, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, it said that he ordered them to make kitri. And then he personally went and served out kitri to all the devotees. He said, "You go out and preach." So my humble thought is that it depends on the person. If we can fast and fast from water, that's very nice. If we do that as an offering to Srila Prabhupada and Jagannath, that's a very nice thing. But if it's going to limit our service, if it's going to cause us problems, if you're a rogi like myself, doctors say don't fast at all, then you have to take, then you should do that for service. And Shastra Hari Bhakti Vilas also says that there's different people who don't have to fast on Ekadasi, and some of those who don't have to fast, there's a young child, an old man, someone who's sick, or someone who's doing service for Guru. Someone who has some declaration for service for Guru. So that's my thought on that. Okay? Prabhuji?
In this regard, Srila Prabhupada never emphasized following of Nirjala Ekadasi.
Yes.
He never emphasized it.
It's an interesting thing to me. If you ask devotees, it's one of my favorite things when we talk about rules and regulations. What is the most important Ekadasi of the year? Pretty much everybody say, Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi. Wrong. Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi is for the poppies. It's for the sinners. The most important Ekadasi for Gaudiya Vaishnavas is Uttana Ekadasi, the last Ekadasi of the month of Kartik. And that's the day that Lord, it's called Uttana Ekadasi because that's the day Lord Vishnu wakes up. It's also the disappearance day of Gaurkishor's Babaji. And that Ekadasi we observe for bhakti. The Pandava Nirjala Ekadasi we observe because, well, maybe I screwed up and I took some grains once and I got to become free from my sin, from my offense. But if you're chanting the holy name, you're doing Guru Seva, there's no question of those things. So, we'll stop there. Okay? Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhaktavinda ki, Shri Jagannath Balani, Srimati Subhadra Mai Sudarshan Ju ki, Shri Jagannath Rathayatra ki, Gaur Premanande, Ramcha Kalpadaruvischa, Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha, Patitanam Pavane, Vaishnavebhyo.
His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu ki.
Srila Prabhupada ki.
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for a very wonderful class about Jagannath. Okay, let's greet His Grace Madhavananda Prabhu with 3 loud Jai Jagannath! Jai Jagannath! Jai Jagannath! Jai Jagannath! Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, our tradition is to read scores before we proceed with breakfast. So quickly, yesterday in our shop Closet Krishna in Rochester, we distributed 2 small books, 5 medium books and 2 Maha big books and collected a total of 223 Lakshmi points. Haribo! And in Radha's boutique, we distributed 5 books, collected a total of 240 Lakshmi points. Haribo! And in Govinda's Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Restaurant, yesterday we served at least 308 paid customers and collected a total of 2,930 Lakshmi points. Haribo! Okay, so we'll serve breakfast now in the temple room. Yeah. Haribo, Haribo. Well, everyone fled. No one wants to take breakfast. It's nice. Anyway, I know cook cooked like double, so because it's less people, so we can take more prasadam. So that's good information. But we need some volunteers to serve. Everyone run away, okay? And also someone to help cleaning afterwards. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we'll say a prayer for new temple to their lordships. Dear Shri Shri Radhananda Nishvara, Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra, Shri Shri Gauranitai, and Giri Govardhan, we offer our most respectful obeisances unto you. With a mood of deep gratitude and appreciation, we request your causeless mercy upon us. For your pleasure, if you so desire, we wish to erect the holy place of your transcendental pastimes that will attract unlimited souls to your service and fulfill the vision of your pure devotee Srila Prabhupada for London. Please enable us to cooperate together in order to satisfy you in this way. We, your surrendered servants, humbly beg. New temple for Shri Shri Radhananda Nishvara, Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra, Shri Shri Gauranitai and Giri Govardhan ki. Shri Shri Radhananda Nishvara, Jagannath Baladev and Subhadra ki. Jai, Jai Jagannath. Hare Krishna. Okay, let's organize prasadam chain.